Hello students, welcome to SJ's English tutorial. My video contains main points of the lesson which will help you for the examination. This will make your revision easy and helps you to answer all types of questions. Let's get started. Today I will explain you the first lesson of grade 12th English, the last lesson from the textbook Flamingo. The last lesson was written by Alphonse Daudet. He was a French novelist, a short story writer, playwright, a poet, and a teacher. He was one of the most famous writers of French literature. He was famous for his depiction of human emotions in a very pragmatic manner. He was born on May 13th, 1840, in France. He left the world on December 16th, 1897, in Paris. His first work was a collection of poems. The book name was Les Amoureuses, and some of his famous works are Sappho, Adventures Prodigieuses, Terrarion de Tarascon, Numa Rumensten, Le Motre, etc. Let us see the background of the story before going into the lesson, the last lesson. Franco-Prussian War was fought between 1870 to 1871. France was defeated by Prussia under the leadership of Bismarck. Germany, Poland, and some parts of Austria were included in Prussia. The French districts of Alsace and Lorraine had passed into the control of Prussian hands after France was defeated. There was an order from Berlin that only German must be taught in schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Let us see what happened after that. There are two main characters in this story, Franz, a schoolboy, and Mr. Hamel, the French teacher. Let us see the character traits of Mr. Hamel. Mr. Hamel was a sincere French teacher who knew subject very well. He loves French language. He considered French the clearest and the most beautiful language in the world. He advised the villagers to hold as to French language even though there was a ban on using the language. He was so upset by the German occupation of Alsace. This story is a narration about Mr. Hamel's last French class. Little Franz was a schoolboy who hated French grammar. Franz narrated the story of the last lesson. He was a bit lazy and wished to play outside. He disliked his teacher, Mr. Hamel, for his disciplinarism. He was ashamed on the last day of the French class that he did not learn French language properly. He was so sad that he could not learn French language and could not see his French teacher anymore. He started to adore his teacher, Mr. Hamel. Let's plunge into the story. Franz narrated the story. He was very late to school that day. He wanted to play in the beautiful nature. He disliked to study French and he hated his French teacher, Mr. Hamel, who was a strict teacher. Mr. Hamel said that he would question the students and participants the following day. Franz had no interest in grammar. He did not prepare for the test in participles. He did not know anything about them. That was the reason he did not want to go to school and wanted to go and play. At last, he controlled his temptation to play and rushed towards the school. On his way to school, Franz had seen a crowd gathered in front of the bulletin board. They had been receiving orders and news about the last battles, etc., for the last 2 years from the same bulletin board. Franz could not understand what the crowd was discussing. Since he was already late to school, he moved hurriedly towards school. Blacksmith told him not to go to school in such a hurried manner because there was plenty of time to go to school. Franz could not get the meaning of blacksmith's words. He thought that blacksmith was making fun of him. Generally, when school began, a great amount of noise like opening and closing of desks, repetition of lessons, rapping of teacher's ruler on the table, etc. could be heard even from the street. That day it was certainly different. It was looking like a Sunday morning. There was no noise. It was completely still. His classmates were already seated in their places. Mr. Hamill was walking up and down in his classroom. He was carrying a terrible iron ruler under his arm. Franz was ashamed for being late to class. He thought that Mr. Hamill would scold him in front of the class. He was frightened to enter the classroom. Mr. Hamill didn't scold Franz. He told him to go and sit in his place. He also told him that he was about to start class without him. Franz sat in his seat. He overcame his fear after some time. Franz wonders at his teacher's appearance. Hamel was wearing a beautiful green coat-pleated shirt and a little black cap. It was a special embroidered dress which the teacher used to wear only on special occasions like inspection and prize distribution days. Franz was surprised to see the villagers occupying the backbenches. They were sitting silently like regular students. The former mayor, the former postmaster, and several other villagers were there among them. Everyone was looking sad. Old Hauser had brought a primer of French language. Mr. Hamill announced that he was going to give his last lesson. It was his last lesson because the order had come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new German teacher would join the next day, so Mr. Hamill had to leave school that day. Franz could not learn French language. That news was like a thunderclap on him. He felt sorry for not learning his lessons properly. Suddenly, his interest in learning the French language was increased. He looked at his teacher, Mr. Hamel, with great respect. Hamel said that when everybody had enough time to learn, they had postponed for the next day. They could not learn French language thereafter. Germans would make them learn German instead of their mother tongue French. He blamed the parents for sending their children for the work instead of encouraging them learning. He blamed himself for sending the children to water the plants in the garden. He regretted that whenever he went for fishing, he had given a holiday to the children. He was so sad that there was very less attention paid to the learning of French language. According to Hamel, French language was the most beautiful language in the world. He suggested them to guard it. Until they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. That day, Franz listened whatever taught so carefully. He understood everything so easily. It was grammar that taught first, next it was lesson in writing. In the meanwhile, he looked at the cooing pigeons. Franz wondered whether the German could make pigeons to coo in German language. He looked at his teacher with great respect. He appreciated his teacher's hard work and sincerity. After a writing lesson, history lesson was conducted. It was exactly 12 o'clock in the noon. They heard the church clock strike 12. They could hear the trumpets of Prussian returning from the drill. Mr. Hamel wanted to say something, but his voice was choked. He took a piece of chalk and wrote on the board, Viva la France, which means long live France. After that, he made a hand gesture to all to leave the class and go. That's all about today's lesson, my dears. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my channel English Made Easy SJ's English Tutorial. Hit the bell icon to get the future updates. I will come back to you with one more topic. Till then, stay home, stay safe, study well. Take care. Bye.